Hello and welcome everyone to the first episode of the Chains of Life podcast. The name is still going through its beginning stages. I may not keep that name. I may change it, as well as the artwork that covers the podcast itself. It's all up for change. I might change that over time, but for now, I feel like it's appropriate for the type of content I will be talking about in this podcast. Now, quick disclaimer, this first episode is going to be a little shorter. Just want to make a quick introduction, let everyone know what direction this is going to be heading in, how I plan on this, unraveling in the future episodes and everything like that. And also, main disclaimer I want to say is I'm not a licensed therapist. Anything I will be saying in terms of advice or things that I use to help my anxiety and my specific mental health issues is not set in stone for everyone. It's not mental health advice. It's not a licensed therapist giving you advice. I am just someone who has dealt with these types of issues for the last couple of years, and I have developed many different ways of dealing with certain things that may be helpful for other people. So just take everything I say with just that thought in mind, that it's just a suggestion, and if you are going through a rough time, you should seek help from an actual licensed therapist, unlike myself, who is just someone on the internet talking about my experience, and hopefully I can inform some people about what it really is like for certain people out there. Now, moving forward, I just want to make a quick introduction. Most of you guys already know who I am and everything, but I'm just going to make a quick detour for that. My name is Tony, for anyone who doesn't know. I'm currently 22 years old, and I am going to school and also working almost full-time. And I suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, as most people know it as. I'm not going to be going too into little minor details about OCD this episode. I want to make episodes specifically for each type of major anxiety disorder and other type of mental health disorders that people go through. But my current situation is OCD, and I have dealt with depression in the past before. So I know a little bit more about those two, but I want to make episodes on every major type of anxiety disorder because I feel like it's important to not only educate other people on how it is, but also re-educate myself on how other people deal with mental health issues beside myself. So I got OCD, or I figured out I had OCD about 4 years ago at this point. I didn't really believe that I had OCD. I honestly just thought that there was kind of something wrong with me and how I was thinking about things and how my brain kind of perceived things. I thought there was just something wrong, and I was like a weird, like outcast type person. I feel like anyone who really dealt with anxiety disorders or anything like that has had a similar situation to that, where you think about things or you look at yourself and how you react to things and how you live your life, and you're just like, that's not normal. There's something wrong with me, and it's just the way it is. And a lot of people, unfortunately, kind of stop there and won't take that extra step to actually go see someone to see what's going on and see if you can improve on that, because I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of people don't really want to admit that there's something wrong, or I think maybe people feel like if they go to someone else, it's a sign to them that they're not strong enough to deal with it on your own. But I kind of disagree with that. I can understand where people who are struggling with mental health issues are coming from when they say things like that. But in my experience, the strongest decisions I've made are decisions that have helped me in the long run. So the decision to go and start seeing therapy, the decision to, go and seek help when I was really going through a really rough time, things like that. So that's just, what I feel like people think when they're going through those things. And that's how I felt for a while too. So when I started actually going seeing therapy and stuff like that, I kind of got to educate myself on why I think the way I do about certain things and why I act the way I do in certain situations. And not only did it help me understand why it's happening, it also made me feel like that I'm not alone in this journey. I think a lot of people need to understand that as well. Obviously, in the past couple decades, mental health has really kind of grown in awareness, but there's still a lot of room to go. There's still a lot of misunderstanding. There's still a lot of people who don't really fully get what it's like to go through certain things. For example, I didn't know that what I was going through was OCD at all. I thought OCD was a certain anxiety disorder that made you like really precise about certain things. Things need to be neat, they need to be clean, they need to be organized, they need to go the way they're supposed to go. Otherwise, it's wrong. And that's, in my case, it's not really like that. It's a lot more mental. It's a lot more me overthinking about why I'm thinking about things certain ways. And it's a lot more, my OCD is a lot more obsessive than compulsive. So a lot of people, when they think OCD, they think people cleaning up or organizing things, and that's a lot more compulsive. I'm not really on that sort of thing. But like I said, I don't want to get too into that. I'll have a episode dedicated on OCD. But it did affect me a lot. Like I said, it made me feel like I was kind of alone and kind of like an outcast in a lot of situations, and I didn't really know where my place was in certain situations. I just kind of, put my head down. If I was at school, continued schoolwork. If I was at work, continued work, and I just didn't really want to think about all the things that were affecting me day to day. And I think over time that can really be a detriment to anyone who's kind of holding those things in. I always encourage people around me, if something's wrong, if you feel like if there's something in your head they need to get out, if you're feeling down, try and find someone to talk to. Seek help if you really need to. Like, it's not good to keep it in and hold it to yourself. And for a while I did. So for a while I didn't know where to go. I was depressed. It made me kind of change the way I look at things. There was times where I would be home for 3, 4, 5 days straight. I wouldn't want to go anywhere. I wouldn't want to do anything. I would want to sit in my room and just play video games or watch movies or just lay down in my bed, because I feel like I didn't deserve to do anything else because of whatever I was feeling about. And yeah, it's kind of the struggle a lot of people go through. Anxiety always tends to transform into minor forms of depression, or unfortunately in some cases major forms of depression. And I will also be talking about depression specifically in another episode as well. But yeah, that's kind of a short snippet of how it's affected my life. And I'm going to go now. I asked some of you guys to send me in some questions, just, kind of my anxiety, journey, or how I feel about certain things. And I'm going to go through some basics right now, and then I will end this episode off here. I just want to make it short, simple. You guys know what you're getting into, and then we can move on to the next episode and start getting into more specific things, and we'll go over those things then. But let's see. I will go through. Someone says, address your experience with anxiety if you have anxiety and how it affects your daily routine. So I've gotten to the point where anxiety doesn't really affect my daily routine anymore. In the past, it really has. Like I said, there would be days I wouldn't want to leave my house. I wouldn't want to get out of bed. Like, there'd be 2, 3, 4 days straight I wouldn't leave my room. I wouldn't even go down to shower or eat or brush my teeth or anything, because I just felt like I couldn't. And that's a really big struggle for a lot of people. And I still, up to this day, even though I'm never going to be cured of OCD, a lot of anxiety disorders, there's not really a cure for it. It's more of like just how to manage it for the rest of your life. And I don't really look at that as a bad thing. I'm just trying to use my knowledge about mental health and, help other people get through what they're going through, as well as make people aware of how it's really affecting people. So even though I'm getting better at finding the issues, addressing it, and being able to move past them quicker and more easier, I still have good days. I still have really bad days. And depending on the type of day it is, it will either minorly affect my routine or greatly affect my routine, to the point where I had plans. I was going to go out, see friends, go to work, go to school, things like that. And then some days I'm like, I can't do anything. I have to lay down in my bed. I have to be here. I can't go anywhere. So it really is like, there's also in-betweens, obviously, where you can do some things, but you don't want to overdo it. And you just, like, your anxiety is kind of getting at you. Like, I just want to go back home, things like that. So for that question, it really depends on the type of day it is. But depending on what you're going through at that moment, it could either greatly affect your daily routine, where it's going to completely change things around, or it will minimally affect it and you can mostly live a normal life. And that's what I have been doing lately. But there's still, like I said, there's still good days and there's still bad days. So I'm going to move on to the next question that I have here. My partner has OCD. I want to help, but I don't know how. What are the things that calm you down, or what helps you in a relationship coming from your partner? So there's a lot of different forms of OCD that are out there. one of the things here that I can see may be a problem right away is there is this thing called ROCD, or relationship obsessive compulsive disorder. I have struggled with this in numerous relationships in my life, especially within the last couple of years, where it kind of makes you think, is this person right for me? Do I really love them, or do I love somebody else? Or it could be like, do they really love me? Like, what if I'm just not doing enough for them? I'm just not good enough for them. It could be a mix of both. It could be one or the other. For me, I always struggled with, like, do I really love this person? Things like that. And, like, I would kind of take outside thoughts and be like, oh, I thought this person was pretty. This must mean that I don't love my girlfriend. It means that she must not be the one for me. And people who struggle with OCD will recognize that and be like, okay, I'm struggling with that thought, but it's probably just my OCD. I'm going to go and I'm just going to focus on something else, or, just try to take that thought and really, really push through it. Be like, maybe I do think that person's pretty. That's fine. What a lot of people with OCD know is that to really get through things, you have to face them head on. So I'm going to get to what you can do and how you can help in a minute. I'm just trying to explain what it's like from their perspective, so you can kind of set yourself up in a certain way. So first of all, you need to be understanding of the fact they have OCD, and the fact that you are saying to me that your partner has OCD and that you want to help. That's already really good. That it already shows that you want to help, and you want to understand, and you want to be there for them. Sometimes with anxiety, and especially OCD, sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there for them. Let them know that you're there for them if they want to reach out to you, and just let them go through it. A lot of anxiety disorders, you have to just go through it. You have to fight the battle yourself. I've had a number of relationships where they have tried to help me through it, and they've tried to reassure me. But anyone who has OCD knows that reassurance only works for a limited amount of time before it wreaks its ugly head again, and it kind of relapses you right back to where you were before you were reassured. My current relationship, she's very good with me in terms of she will notice when I'm starting to spiral, and she won't give me affirmation. She won't be like, oh, it's going to be okay. Like, I understand where you're coming from. Let's see if we can do this to help you. She'll be like, okay, I understand. And just kind of leave it at that. Be like, I'm here if you need anything. And she'll just kind of be that open ear for me. And she won't let me talk myself into spirals. Like, if I'm spiraling about something, she's like, no, focus on the problem at hand, think about it, get through it, and you'll be okay. And that's in my opinion, that's the best thing that you can do for your partner. It may seem kind of harsh in the moment that you're not actively trying to help them through that situation, but the biggest thing with OCD is that you have to work through a majority of the problems yourself. You can't have someone holding your hand through every single process. Yes, you can have people there to support you when you're going through a rough time, obviously, but when you're really in it and you really need to get through something, you really need to sit there and you need to get through it yourself. And anyone who has major anxiety disorders kind of knows that's the unfortunate truth with a lot of things. So I hope that kind of enlightened you on what may be going through their head, as well as what you can do. I just say, don't give them affirmation. Don't mitigate their thoughts. Recognize that their thoughts are real and that they're affecting them, but don't be like, oh, it's just this, or it's just that, because it gives them a false sense of hope that's just eventually going to relapse onto them and give a bigger issue in the future. So my recommendation is just be there for them, but let them go through at the same time. Let them know you're there for them, but you don't want to continue to let these things spiral out of control. So I hope that helped. If you have any more questions, you can reach out to me directly for that. Let's go to the next question I see. What does OCD mean, and what does it mean to you? I think I kind of touched on a lot of it already today. OCD, I mean, if you want literally, what it means is obsessive compulsive disorder. It makes you think about something, obsess over it, thus the obsessive part of it. And a lot of people develop these compulsions to cure that obsession, at least for a little bit. So, for example, a lot of things will be like, oh, I need to make sure I lock my door. I know I locked it, but I have to lock it again. I have to hear it again, or I have to lock it 3 times, otherwise something bad's going to happen. Or I have to make sure when I'm tying my shoes, I tie the right one first and then the left one first. Otherwise, there's going to be bad karma and something's going to happen. It's very much like that. It's different for every person. Like I said, I'm a lot more obsessive. I'm a lot more mental in terms of I'll think about something. I'll be like, oh, I'm not supposed to think that about this thing, or it's wrong to think about that sort of thing. And then I'll kind of turn at myself and be like, oh, but you are thinking about it, so there's something wrong with you. And that's the case for me. So that's what OCD it does to me. I know I said, what does it mean to you? I look at OCD, as much as it has hurt and struggled me in the past, made me struggle in the past. I think it is a positive thing in my life. I always try and take the bad things that happen and kind of transform it into, this was meant to happen. It's meant to give you experience in this area so you can help other people through it when they're going through it, or just, spread knowledge to, my future kids, my friends, their, whatever situations they're going through. Basically, I think that I go through OCD and I go through the things I go through because it's going to make me a stronger person. It's going to make me understand more, and it's going to make me be able to help more people in the long run. And I think that with that thought in my head and that thought process, it kind of makes me okay with the fact that I have to deal with everything. It makes it all worth it, because if I can help just one person and help them go through when they're really going through that really rough time that I've been at, then I feel like I did something right. So to me, OCD is a blessing as much as it is a curse, if not more. I just think that like I said, I feel like I'm blessed to have it in a certain way, because it's just going to make me a stronger person in the end. So that's what it means to me. Now let's go to the next one. What are the signs of mental health issues or problems? Well, for you personally, you'll kind of see it happen. Like you'll start to go through those steps where you won't know what's, like, you'll feel like something's wrong, like you're down about a lot of things. You're obsessing over like really specific, things that normally wouldn't be as severe to you. For other people, it would mainly, like, if you're trying to look for signs in other people, like, I think it's kind of hard because some people put on a really good mask on everything's okay, everything's great. But I think that you can kind of tell when someone's out of it and they're kind of spaced out. And, so like I've had things where I'm like really like passionate about a certain thing, and then when I start going through my mental health issues, I just won't be passionate about it anymore. I'll just avoid it. I just don't want to do it anymore. And I think, little things like that, you can kind of start to notice if they're being a little more quiet than normal, if they just don't want to be as social as normal. I mean, all these things could be other issues that aren't necessarily mental health issues. They could be going through something at home. They could be, something that happened in their life that is just affecting them temporarily. But generally, that's what I kind of see. I can kind of tell when someone's a little down, and I just, make an extra effort to be like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to intrude, but, if you need anyone to talk to, I'm here. And then that's kind of where I leave it. I don't want to overbear anybody, especially if I think that they could be going through something. Because like I said before, a lot of problems people really got to get through themselves. But the biggest asset to you when you're going through issues is having people there, and you letting people know that you're there for them is going to make them feel like so much better in terms of what they're going through. Because a lot of times you feel so alone when you're going through certain issues, and they just think that other people won't understand. And even if they think you won't understand, just the fact that they know that someone cares and they're kind of being like, hey, I want to be there for you, is like so big in itself that it could be a huge difference in someone's life, like way more than you could think. So signs, there's not any really obvious signs, at least to me. I know there's technical signs and, certain things that you can observe that, could be a little more telltale, but in terms of how I look at it, that's kind of what I think about it. Let's see. There's a couple more, so let's go through this real quick. What has been the most helpful resource support for you in managing your mental health? I'd say to start, definitely therapy. Therapy for sure. I don't think therapy is just for people who are going through mental health issues, by the way. I think therapy can be used by literally anyone. There's nothing to lose from going to therapy. So if you can, I strongly recommend it in itself. It just makes you more aware about who you are as a person and why you think about things the way you do, and just like how you live your life. So I don't think there's anything negative about therapy. So my biggest helpful resource in the beginning of managing my mental health was definitely therapy. I eventually did get into having to go on antidepressants, and that is something I originally didn't want to have to deal with, but after a while I realized that therapy just wasn't enough for me anymore. So I had to go the extra step, and some people will have to and some people won't have to, and that just depends on the person and how severe their disorder is and how much it's affecting them. But I still think that the most important resource for anybody going through mental health is a licensed therapist who really knows what's going on and can really help you through those things. In terms of minor things, just being there for people. So like I really rely on the people around me. I have a really good relationship with my parents, with a lot of my close friends, with my current relationship. I have a lot of people who I kind of rely on in certain situations, and I kind of surround myself with people who I know are going to be there for me no matter what. And I think that's the best thing that you can do when you're really going through stuff, is just try and find those people who really care, who you know aren't going to go anywhere, and really, really lean on them when you're going through a rough time. Not to say that you should put all of your problems and, you only rely on a couple people for your whole mental health. You have to be able to eventually grow and lean and like rely on yourself to get through certain things, because a lot of things mental health related you have to battle yourself, but you also have to be able to step back and be like, okay, I need to vent, I need to relax, I need to go see someone and just not be judged and not have to think about things like that. So I'd say besides going to therapy and managing your own mental health, like mentally, having people that you can go to and you can rely on is like the next biggest thing for me. So that's probably the answer to that question. I think this is the last one, and then I'll end off this episode here. I'm already going a little longer than I thought I would. But is there anything you wish people better understood about mental health? I just think that people don't realize how common it is. I'm very open about mine, but I feel like a lot of people who I communicate with would have no idea about my mental health issues if I wasn't so open about it. I feel like I live a relatively normal life. I have a lot of friends. I talk to a lot of different people. There's people I can see. There's work I can do. There's I always could be busy with something, and I could always distract myself with something. So like to a lot of different people, it looks like I'm living a good life. I have friends. I communicate a lot. I have a lot of people I can talk to on a daily basis. I have a decent job where I'm making decent money. I'm going to school and pursuing my degree. So a lot of people from the outside may look at it and be like, "Oh, this person's good." Like they got it figured out. When in reality, that's not exactly the case. Like, you can take the most successful person who never has to worry about anything in the world, and they have some of the worst mental health issues. It's all about really what's going on in your head, and some people are really open about it, and some people are really closed about it. I'm lucky enough to be someone who's not afraid to be open about it. I think that generally, the people who you want to be around you will recognize that you being open about it is stronger than being closed about it. People who are going to make comments to the side and be like, "Oh, this person's going through this," kind of joke about it, whatever like that. You don't want those people in your life anyway. Anyone who doesn't understand about mental health, my only thing is I hope one day they do understand, not to speak in bad on anyone who does understand, because obviously not everyone does understand. And I never wish for someone to have to understand. And that's what I always go through is people will be like, "Oh, I couldn't even imagine, what you're going through." And like, I always say like, look, I wouldn't ever want you to. Like, I go through so much stuff, but like, I would never wish what I have to go through sometimes in anybody in my life, no matter how good or bad I feel about that person. So I just wish people understood how common it was. There are so many people in this world. Like, I'm talking about like, out of my closest friends, I'd say out of my like 5 or 6 closest friends, 4 or 5 of them have like anxiety problems, that have mental health issues, and you wouldn't know that unless you were told by them. And that's one of those things is I don't think a lot of people really get that. Like, from the outside, people look like they're happy. They look like they have a good life. They look like, they're going out with friends, they're partying, they're in relationships, they have good jobs, but like that doesn't say anything about what actually is going on with them. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create this podcast is I want to just be like, hey, this is a normal thing that a lot of people go through. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in my life who are going through things that I have no idea about. And so I just think that people just better understood how common it is. Also, I do wish that people understood more about like the specifics and how it affects, certain groups of people, and like just not have a stigma against certain types of mental health disorders. Like there's like certain stigmas about certain ones, like I said about OCD. People thought it was like, I used to think it was about like organizing and being neat and stuff like that. I didn't know that there was a whole mental part behind that. And there's a lot of different types of anxiety disorders and mental health disorders that have that similarity that you don't really see it from the outside, so you don't really understand. And I wish people understood more, but like I said, that's the purpose of me creating this type of podcast, so I can inform people. People are gonna listen or they're not. Honestly, I don't really care. If I help a couple people, if 200 300 people listen to this and I help one person, that's great. That's all I needed. That's all I wanted from it. So that's kind of my take on everything. So I think that's it. That's at least all the actual questions I got. Some of you guys sent me some pretty interesting requests. Someone said Juice World, so I'm pretty sure that was Tyler or someone. But anyway, besides that, that's going to be it for this episode. Going forward, I'm probably going to have themed episodes around specific disorders. I'll probably bring people in for certain. I've had a couple people reach out to me saying they want to be involved. Again, that invitation is still open. Anyone who wants to be involved in any sort of discussion, I am more than willing to include anyone who wants to be on here. But going forward, I will be focusing on certain types of disorders and mental health disorders, things like that, and really kind of not only informing everyone else about what it's like to go through those things and what they entail, but also to inform myself, because I don't know everything about every type of disorder. And I think it's going to be very beneficial, not just for anyone who listens, but also for me. So, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. If you really listened all the way to the end, all 27 and a half minutes so far, I really appreciate it. And I will be continuing to do this no matter how many people listen or don't listen. And, if anyone has any questions or they want to reach out to me about anything involving this podcast, you guys have my Instagram. You have my number if you have my number. And, that's about it. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys next episode. Bye.